Don't let the weather fool you, folks. It is round 3 of the Simrigs Sprint Series, and we are at one of the most legendary circuits for such an occasion at Suzuka in Japan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining us from, and whenever you may be joining us. My name is Nick Amon, and I want to welcome you to tonight's broadcast. We are in for quite a treat. We have 75 minutes on the clock, no mandatory stops, and weather is a bit of a variable. We saw it in the Asia-Pacific split, some races being done in the wet. Some of them, well, hopefully can do the same, and some, North America. If you missed last week's race, don't worry, I've got you covered. Highlights and the recap right there for you. It was hot and it was hazy at Catalunya. Drivers were coming to very familiar territory. A lot of course, the testing grounds for Formula 1. We're all very aware of that. And, well, this race was no different. 21 cars on the grid. And surprisingly, Wilson took that pole position away from Skylar Loverink. Something we don't see all too often, but no time being wasted right into the start of this race. 4 wide here for Carpenter, Hendrickson, Clifford, and Portis barely on the inside. As we head into turn number 1, though, things were going to get a little bit crazy. As you see, Joel Bondera getting turned around by Clifford. He had quite the view with Rasco right in front of him. Everybody's darting around, trying to get out of the way. Stapleton gives him a little bit of a whack. And Fernandez was off on the side. That drew out the safety car, the virtual safety car, rather. 2 for 2 on North America. But this gave a little bit of extra life on the tires. Loverink, though, was leading after turn number 1, so he converted that and does what he does best, which is just getting these restarts working for him beautifully, right on the throttle, right at the perfect moment at the, or just after the chicane. But Clifford would have to pay for his sins, so going through turn 1, it just snaps a little bit one way, goes the other way, tries to save it over the sausages there. He gooses the throttle, and that just spins him around, and he would just plummet down the field for that one. Running about 6th. He actually ended up stalling it, and turning back around, he stalled it again, and unfortunately for Andre Lloyd, just goes right to the back of him. So there was some damage there, but action would soon come as Portis and Carpenter dueling it out again, just like old times, down into turn number 1. Carpenter having to take the defensive line. And going through turn 1, it's done pretty well. Through turn 2, though, Portis just gets a little bit too eager there on the inside. Taps the Aston Martin around. They both go. And despite that, they would only lose 1 position. Or Portis would lose a position. Carpenter would lose 2. But they blended back in beautifully with the chasing pack. So they would continue on. Now MacGyver and Lemaire, these two guys, were slowly pulling into each other. And MacGyver actually got one hell of an exit. Wanted to convert in the Ford Mustang down the backstretch in the slipstream, just outbrakes at the perfect time and gets right around the Ferrari. Lemaire tried to fight back, tried to get the power down, just could not close that gap up, and MacGyver got out of town. Carpenter again. This time, he's on Frizza, and this is not going to be anywhere for Portis. Frizza outbraking himself a little bit. Clifford there in the background was actually blue flagged for this, so while it does look like he's part of the action, he's certainly not. Carpenter, though, trying to get the switchback going before we head into these very slow corners, although he does back out. Frizza maintains position. Carpenter goes for a gap that really isn't there, taps Frizza around, everybody having to dodge. Clifford almost getting caught up in that one. So it would have to be Frizza getting himself back through the field. Everybody just passes right by him. Now Hernandez here battling it out at the chicane, almost somehow not losing it, which is mighty impressive. But MacGyver, though, has absolutely no problem taking that. And he is going to start the drag race. What else would you expect from some American muscle cars as they go flying down the front stretch? MacGyver on the left, now the right of the screen. Hernandez, though, couldn't really do much. He would just give this position away, realizing that fighting it was probably going to damage both of them. But MacGyver slightly later on the brakes and gets the job done. Now later on, we do see Ciorciari and Keo doing a little battling. This was Ciorciari not really in much of a fight. I think the Italians still had to go for a pit stop, but they come together a little bit. Keo thankfully is not spun around unlike the other drivers on the grid, so he would eventually get past. Now Andre Lloyd decides that he wants a piece of Frieza. There is a little bit of front-end damage there on the Aston Martin, but nothing to really worry about as Frieza outbrakes himself at the end. Now Andre Lloyd is going to sell it one way and go the other. A beautiful little crisscross from him. He got that move done. Frieza, just nothing he could do. We rejoin Lemaire this time. He's gonna be the one doing the overtaking, so that's Eaton in front of him in the Porsche. Similar situation to what happened when we checked in with Lemaire the last time. He got an excellent run out of those sets of corners, and he'll set up on the inside. Eaton goes way off to the side, and just slightly later for the Ferrari driver, gets through, no problems at all. However, things would not end there, and not for the reasons you would want. So Hendrickson is behind, getting around these blue flags. Lemaire is starting to struggle to keep himself together, and just going into that final, or going towards that final chicane, he just gets a little bit ambitious on the throttle. I think he just gave it a little bit too much gas. The back end stepped out and that was pretty much that. Now Keo and Rasco, two of the, feels like the biggest cars on the grid, the Aston Martin, or sorry, not the Aston Martin, the Bentley versus the Mustang, and Keo is right under the wing of Rasco. So much slipstream, so much straight line speed for the Ford, but struggling to really pull alongside. He does peak on the inside, wants it, but has to get back on the racing line. He'll continue to just stick behind the big old Boatley through 1 and 2 and up over into 3. And this would be a battle that raged on for quite a long time. This was, I think, this lap and then one after. Could not separate these two if you tried. Continuous defensive lines from Rasco. Just incredible racing between these guys. They're very familiar with each other. They've raced before in past seasons of Sprint, and this was no exception as Keo throws it down the inside, but he just can't really get enough speed under the car as Rasco keeps it even. Normally at that corner we see drivers getting the job done, but that wasn't the case, and Rasco carrying a little bit more speed around the outside of the corner and would just cut in front of the Mustang. And this was not over, like I told you. One lap later, though, it is the same story. Keo behind, but now Rasco has to go defensive into turn 1. This will give the Mustang a much better line through 2. There's a little bit of beating and banging there, but nothing to really write home about. Keo getting a little bit too much on the curb, almost spinning out. But thankfully, none of the sort. And you think, well, with a move like that, he's got to have lost so much time, but that's not actually the case because Rasco ends up outbraking himself into 4. And this does give Keo the opportunity. This was all he was going to need. He was side by side. He braked a little bit early. Rasco not paying attention, outbrakes himself again. And the little crisscross for Keo sets him up with that position. And as if it wasn't bad enough for Rasco, once again, he is going to come under fire. This time it's from the Honda of Portis. Defensive lines, slightly different trajectories, but all in all, it really works. Portis was really chasing this one down, tried to get a later apex. He does get just that. Gets more speed, up to 4. He's just barely alongside into the braking zone. And Rasco's trying to hang on as much as he can, carry as much speed as possible through 4 into 5, and Portis doing exactly that. He'll be on the outside. Almost, I think, getting bumped a little bit offline. And Rasco stays ahead. And Portis was going to have more opportunities, of course. It seems like a little bit of deja vu from last time. And pulling up, there's Keo, so that's obviously the move from earlier. It's already been done. And Rasco, knowing he can't really catch Keo, he's going to want to, at the very least, keep Portis behind. But Portis is not one to really back down. And we've seen that in plenty of seasons past. We've seen it here in this season, and just who Portis is in general. He does look to the inside for a moment as we head through the final set of corners, but obviously the move isn't really there. Maybe thinking he can psych Rasco out, but that's not really going to happen. As they get around that final corner, though, it is going to be the exact same situation that Rasco found himself in with Keogh not too long ago, but later on, after a little bit of tug of war rather, Portis would just get a little bit extra speed into that late braking zone, that heavy braking zone, just too much for the Bentley to handle, and Portis would get the overtake done, and that would have been the last overtake for the race, as Loverank and Wilson getting around some backmarker traffic. A little bit of a love tap there from the leader, just to say, how you doing? Please get out of the way. Thank you very much. Wilson was incredibly close to Loverank the entire race. Similar pit strategies, put it at the exact same time. But if you're Loverank, you're going to be very happy with this result as he crossed the line to win at Catalunya. Wilson in second place, then Hendrickson in third, Portis, Keogh your top five, Rasco, Carpenter, Frizza, Kaiser, and Fernandez. There were some penalties dished out post-race. Of course, race stewards dealt with that the best they could. And, well, that's why we had certain drivers falling down the field. If you looked at the preliminary results, you would have noticed that, yeah, there were some people who finished higher up who weren't part of that top 10. But we are here in qualifying. The rain is falling. Clifford, of course, being the first person out, as is tradition for him. If you want someone to consistently let you know what the racetrack looks like when you get out there, Clifford's your man. I did pop into his stream for just a moment before, or about an hour ago, just to see what was going on. He was getting to grips with the conditions as best he could. They were on one of the OOR practice servers. Of course, those are set up to mirror the actual racing conditions for the evening's festivities. And if you notice, I got the map up as well this time after fighting it for God knows how long. But this should be the first time lap coming. Oh no, actually this is out lap. So who is on a valid hot lap? It doesn't look like anybody, although the 888 can barely see it. That's Jane Hernandez. Clifford, you can see the blue dot. That means his lap is not valid. The 84 behind him, that's going to be Portis. He's just about to start it. So let's see where Hernandez decides to place the pole. Plant the flag, set the bar, whatever phrase or idiom you want to use. And I lied, it was Clifford who set the first lap. I know what I'm doing. 2:07.86. Times, of course, is going to be slower just because of these wet track conditions. That rain is going to stick around pretty much right to the end of quali. Portis with a 2:08.26. Then Hernandez. That 2:09 came through. He's off the track, so that lap's going to be invalid. He's going to have to go back, do it again. Lucas Lemaire, 2:10.15. Who else out there has set a time? Ondanique Stapleton, who, based off of last week's result, I am fairly certain is still leading the amateur class championship. They've just put in a 2:11, and I just saw Hendrickson jump way up the field. He's flashing the lights there at Pocket, telling him to get out of the way. He's put a 2:07.105, and right on cue, Loverank, 2:06.58. He has done this time and time again. The only person I could even think to challenge him is this man right here, Andrew Wilson, pole sitter from last week's race, second place, and he goes well and truly over the inside of the triangle chicane. I don't know if that counts. I think it should, if barely, but I'm not having high hopes for that lap. We'll see what it looks like as he crosses the line. Does it count? No, yes it does. 2:08.87 for him. So that'll be a good start. We do see Clifford coming through that same section of the track. He's improving right now. He's got about half a second. That should not be enough to really overtake Hendrickson, but it'll at least close that gap up on the off chance that Hendrickson isn't able to put a lap in, or at least a better lap in. We see Scott Waters having problems there towards the, well, right where Clifford is pulling up to. Alan MacGyver, what is showing he had last week. He's got 9th position right now, 2:11.26. You can really tell who's been practicing in the wet and who hasn't been. Some of these drivers, I'm sure, have been putting in plenty of laps to get prepared for this race, and some who are probably just starting to get into it. I think at the very least, just throw on some traction control, throw on some ABS, you're pretty much all set. Second, though, right now for the 477. And Hendrickson behind. Hendrickson also on an improvement, but not by much. It's only a couple of tenths. And we'll see where MacGyver ends up. Yo, he's really fighting that car. This wet track is going to play a huge factor in this race, especially with the possibility of the race starting one way and ending another. But he'll improve. Hendrickson didn't improve. He must have lost something in that last corner. Dips back into the pits. Andrew Wilson also improving. We have a lot of drivers on invalid laps at the moment. Andre Lloyd's going to be starting his timed lap. Frizza is also having a lot of problems right now. That timer starts ticking right as quali starts, and I'm fairly certain if you're in the pit lane at the end of practice, whatever time it was at when you were there, when it swaps over from practice to quali, I'm fairly certain that time just continues ticking. If someone can fact check that for me, that'd be great. But he is yet to go anywhere on the grid. Same with everybody. 12th down to 18th, Lloyd, Pocket, Rasco, Ian, Ciorciari, Kaiser, who you see right then and there, coming through Degna 1 and now Degna 2, and Scotty Waters as well have to set those fast laps. Stapleton improving. MacGyver is as well. Carpenter at the moment sitting in P6. He's got a couple of tenths, but if he wants to overtake Wilson, yeah, he will. If he wants to get over Portis, though, he's going to find a lot of extra time, and I just looked at the delta. He's lost half a second, so that's pretty much done. Stapleton coming up to 130R. Right now, half a second to his name. We can see just how much it changes, and I don't know if that's a valid time or a valid track usage. Through the chicane. He's going to try to keep it neat and together. The final corner wants to get the power down, but not too much. We saw what happened not too long ago with one of our Mustangs. Stapleton does go faster, 2:10 1/4. That is still a tenth behind Lucas Lemaire, who is not improving because this is an outlap. Ciorciari, somewhere in there, there he is, has put a time down at 2:11.16, or sorry, 2:12.16. So we'll see where he ends up. Loverink, though, still leading the charge with that 2:06.57, or 58, sorry. Just coming off of an outlap, so we should be seeing if he's able to gain any more time right now. He's staying even, though, so that's a positive. 58 car. Just coming off of the gravel now. I'm not certain who that is. Or 64, rather. Is it Ciorciari? Oh, it is. It is Ciorciari. Oh, he's had a big hit on the front end. That is not looking good. And Pocket in front of him running off. Yeah, Ciorciari, something happened there. I assume probably getting on the curbs a little too much, spinning around. Portis, I haven't looked at him recently. He's got a couple of tenths right now as he starts this lap. The only driver close to the start-finish line that is improving is none other than Stapleton. I think right behind Stapleton is Loverink. Yeah, so the 52 has a couple of tenths. So does Hendrickson in the 757. Portis, like I said earlier, does have it. He is going to be making the run up to Spoon Corner soon enough. So we'll stick with Stapleton. Eaton has put a lap in finally with a 2:11.38, so struggles there for still some of these drivers. Frizza, Lloyd, Kaiser, and Waters. We'll see where Stapleton ends up. Very shallow line on the inside. Is it enough to move up? It is just a position. How much more is Loverink going to make for a gap? A 2:08.11, so we messed up somewhere. No problems for him. Portis flashing the lights on Waters. coming up to 130R. This is a very awkward place to get blue flagged. Or at the very least, the guy behind you saying, please get out of my way, I need to get this lap. And Waters is also trying to put a lap in, so they're both kind of stuck in a weird spot right now. I don't think... Oh, that's destroyed Portis' lap. He had a good bit of extra time on, and Scott Waters maybe holding him up a little bit. Waters doesn't set a time, 2:21. He is going to slot him behind the Honda. Anybody else right now? Just said, yep, Portis come over the line. Andrew Wilson has gone down to 7th with a 2:08.37. There's Rasco behind him. Rasco's sitting P3 at the moment. That 2:07.15. He has usurped Clifford's position there. 999 booted down. But Clifford is really trying everything he can right now. You can see how much he's just throwing it over the curbs. And Loverink is still picking time away at his personal best. Same with Hendrickson. Portis is out there as well. Andrew Wilson. We'll see where the McLaren is at. So he hits that heavy braking zone. Through the chicane. He's going to have time for one more lap. So if he wants to improve, he's got to get it right. The rain has stopped, so we should be seeing a bit of a drier line, sticking around a bit longer. Where does Wilson find himself as he crosses the line? Goes into the top 5, 2:07.56. I think he's going to stay out. These are going to be some of the best laps we see from any of these drivers. MacGyver, 477 Mustang. I don't know if that was a little bit of network or a little bit of netcode or a little bit of his driving, but slight twitch there. He's 13th, goes right up to 9th with a 2:09.96. Yeah, if you're not getting an improvement now, good luck. Hendrickson just abusing the entry to the triangle chicane. Absolutely no mercy spared. And he is sticking it very close on the inside, wants to grab any extra time he can. Lloyd's gone back to the pits. He's in 10th position right now. Hendrickson, it just takes a little bit of time off. 2:06.46, still half a second, almost 6/10 behind Loverink, who has gone back to the pits. He's done for the session. Portis crosses that line, does get the improvement. It's still 6th spot for him, and I think we are going to be seeing the last laps coming through. The 67 of, who is that? Scott Waters is only good enough for 18th. He put the best lap he could in. Lemaire in the background. He's got a 2:10.15. Did not improve on his last lap. We'll check in with Jonathan Clifford. We are seeing some yellows across the field. Some drivers finishing it up. Some drivers, unfortunately, having to exit early. The 69 of CRCR is one of them. Clifford right now in 4th position. Does he go any higher? Goes right into 3rd. Moves Rasco out of the way. Andrew Wilson, another driver who is improving. He could go way up the field at this time. If it goes the way it should, he could get into the top 3, but he's got to get a few extra tenths, and he's actually lost a few tenths. So he comes out of the chicane. Rasco! Big hit into the wall. I think he might have screwed his lap there and decided it was best to just go right into the wall. Wilson, though, stays 5th, 2:07.24. Does improve, but doesn't move. Frizza is out there as well. He is in a very different spot. All the pros are up towards the front of the field, and he's smack dab right in the middle of Pro-Am territory. No silver drivers out this evening, but Frizza is improving. This may put him in the top 10. It may even put him up to Carpenter, depending on how this lap goes. So he'll go from 12th to 9th into the top 10. Kaiser just ahead of him on the timing sheet. But behind him on track, does improve, but doesn't go higher. Does Hendrickson do anything? No, he doesn't, but running a very consistent race, and the last car is going to be Kenneth Portis in the 84 Honda. He's sitting in 6th position. Can he go to 5th? No, he will not. He's just going to miss out by a 1/10 of a second on Wilson, and your grid is set for 75 minutes. This is the first of 4 longer races that we are going to have this season, and this isn't even going to be the longest. The next race at Silverstone is going to be 90 minutes. So that is going to be one hell of an experience. And if you know this broadcast, you know what's coming next. It is going to be the grid walk. I do love looking at all the liveries, unless someone hasn't, you know, submitted a livery. Loverink, Eaton, please and thank you. Makes my life easier. Of course, we did see Loverink with the Jean-Alesi Esports livery, much like Hendrickson right there in P2 in the Lamborghini. I don't know if something's gone down there or what the case may be. He did have it submitted, but there were some livery sync issues that sort of meshed the skins together. But Loverink on pole position, Hendrickson right behind him, Clifford in all too familiar P3. Rasco in the Bentley, though, doing a great job getting up there into 4th. Probably the safest car on the grid. Totally not because of what this car is saying. Andrew Wilson, he's going to be 5th, but he's going to be looking to do better than that by the checkered flag. He did 2nd last week. Repeat performance or better would definitely be something he is looking forward to. Portis in the 84. Honda right there. Home race for the Japanese manufacturer. Austin Carpenter in the all-pink Aston Martin. It's very classic. It's grown on me. And joining him on the 4th row of the grid, Dylan Kaiser in the 48. Dylan has been doing some work here in North American Sprint and continuing to show that here tonight. Definitely going to be interesting to see what the pit strategies are going to look like. Who's going to pit where? We may be seeing drivers just split the race in half. Obviously, they can come in if they want. If they do, it is probably going to be for tires more than likely. Fuel, they could just go straight to the end of the race. I haven't checked, but I'm fairly certain that's what happened. Frizza is 9th and MacGyver is 10th. We are going to be starting outside the top 10 now with Andre Lloyd on the left, one of the newer drivers here in North American Sprint, already starting to make a name for himself after a sort of issue-riddled race 1. He's gotten some heat in the fire there. He's got Craig Pocket with him. Then it's Jaden Hernandez and Ananique Stapleton right in front of you. Row 7 on the grid. Lucas Lemaire and Xavier Eaton are going to be 15th and 16th. And rounding us out in row number 9 on the left there is Phoenix Ciorciari, the Italian driver. In front of the Italian Ferrari, driven by none other than Scott Waters. The cars are on. We have been within that 60 seconds. We are moving, which means this race very shortly should be getting underway. And of course, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Simrigs out of Melbourne, Australia, for whom the championship is named after. If you're in Australia or New Zealand, you guys are going to be all set with all of some of the best sim racing equipment money can buy. Whether you got an upgrade or just your first, if you're going with Simrigs for your first, geez, you've got one hell of a wallet. But Australia, New Zealand, you guys are covered. If you're outside of those borders like everybody else in this organization, if you send them an email, they'd be more than happy to do some business with you. And of course, if you are supporting us on Patreon, you get 5% off your in-store purchases, so definitely take advantage of that. Like I said, whether you got a birthday coming up or maybe you've got an upgrade that you're itching to get, anniversary, whatever it may be, Simrigs has got you covered. So thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series, folks. We are here on track. Loverink leading the field away as we get into 75 minutes of action here at Suzuka. And very quickly, I am going to do this, because I always forget to do this every single time. I'm consistent incorrect about it, but Loverink, not an unfamiliar position from him at the top of the field, as well as having Hendrickson behind him. Same with Clifford. Of course, you can argue that everybody's been behind the man himself, but it's more the proximity you want. It's that prestige of being close enough to Loverink to actually see the tailpipes. And it's going to be interesting to see who is able to make this work, who is able to get the most out of their tires, most out of the fuel, what the strategies are going to be looking like here very familiar sights up at the front of the field. We are going to be going 2 columns of cars here, which means that it is going to be green flags very, very shortly. And I always say this is the calmest the race is going to be for a very long time. So far, we've seen what race starts look like, and we hopefully will be avoiding a repeat, but only time will tell. Let's see how good the gap's looking. Lloyd's got to catch up a little bit. There we go. You can do it. Yeah, we're figuring it out. But folks, get ready. We're about to go racing here at Suzuka Loverank. Pole position once again for your defending champion. Hendrickson will be more than happy to take over those rights. But here we go. Slowly up towards the line. Who's got it in them? It's going to be raining for the first 30 minutes. We'll see if that continues. If it does, it's going to be wet tires from here on out. If not, we could be seeing a tire change. And we are away here at Suzuka. Loverank's got an excellent getaway, but so have the 2 cars behind of Clifford and Rasco. Clifford later on the brakes into turn number 1, almost making contact with not only Henderson, but also Rasco. Cleanly through. Everybody goes. It looks like we've learned from our mistakes from last week and the week before, and we are starting to see drivers settle into position. Clifford and Rasco still trying to figure out who goes where, and it looks like Clifford's finally got the better of the Bentley, and behind that, Frizza, Kaiser, and MacGyver, and Lloyd starting to get close to each other. The 713 of Pocket has gone off. I don't know if that was from a touch or just driver error, but he has fallen right down to 18th on the grid, rather. Loverank, everybody else has got an incredible getaway. We're going to be heading up to Degna 1 now. It's going to be cold tires, cold brakes, heavy fuel load for everybody. But it seems as though Degna 1, Degna 2 done expertly. Drivers definitely have been practicing that. That is one corner that is very easy to get wrong. And now we can get going here on the race start. You can already see how much Hendrickson and Loverank have pulled away just because of a little bits of infighting that have gone down in the field. Ooh, Hendrickson. I thought Hendrickson just lost it for a second. Look at how much faster Rasco appears to be. He's going to try to swing this around the outside of Clifford. See some of those tire marks coming up. Drivers not getting grip. Clifford's one of them. Rasco goes a little bit wide. And look at Loverank and Hendrickson. They pulled away beautifully from these two. All this fighting may not do them any good. And through 130R for the first time, it has gone very well for everybody in the field. We have some pretty big gaps here. Eaton and Ciari with Stapleton ahead. We do have Scott Waters going wide. Craig Pocket's going to be the last one to go through here, and does it perfectly. But we are racing. Loverank still leading from Hendrickson and Clifford. Rasco and Wilson, your top 5. The positions have stayed relatively the same through one tour of Suzuka. It's going to be interesting to see how things pan out. How much of a dry line can form, if any. The gap right now from Hendrickson to Clifford is over a second. However, Loverank seems to be struggling a little bit, as he does not really have sort of the best hold right now. Seems to be just a few fingers on, a few fingers off, and then getting the full grip and then losing a little bit of it. Don't know. You can see how much of the track he's using. Everybody is using so much of this circuit to make their lines work. It almost looks like they're going to go off. But thankfully, that has not been the case. We are just seeing a lot of very early race strat. It's a marathon, not a sprint, despite the series name. Oh, and there's a very, very deep bit of braking there for MacGyver, who has just let Carpenter through. Kaiser staying in front of Frizza. Tried a little bit of an attack there from the Ferrari. Andre Lloyd is lurking behind, and I think Hernandez and Lemaire may also... oh no, Lemaire just fell off of that. So we'll stick with MacGyver here and go. You can see just how much of an exit MacGyver's going to get and how much speed he's going to gain. He's got absolutely no slipstream from anybody. Although Kaiser can't say the same. Going to go a little bit of defensive here into 130R. Frizza knows this, has to back out, knows there is absolutely no chance of anything happening, especially not in these conditions. Running wide there in the background, though, was Jaden Hernandez. That gives Lemaire a chance to move up here. Later on the brakes there for the Ferrari into the triangle chicane, and that move is done. Hernandez just getting a little bit awkward out of 130R. That was absolutely perfect for Lemaire to take advantage of. Position change. You see Stapleton there in the background holding off the two Porsches as best as he can, and then Waters and Pocket as well in sort of a little world of their own. Check back in with the front two, or front four rather, if you want to call it that. And this gap has actually swapped entirely, because now Hendrickson leads this race. I think I just caught the Delta before the position swap happened, but Hendrickson has made the move and now is in control of this race. The other three drivers of Clifford, Rasco, and Wilson have not changed in the slightest, although it looks like Wilson's fallen off a little bit. We see the 713 there, Pocket, more problems for him. Rasco with fastest lap, though, a 2:08.30. Is the lack of speed from Loverink maybe a sign for Clifford that moving up is a possibility? He's also in the Lamborghini. But that battle has gone away. Now Clifford has to worry about the Bentley behind of Rasco. He had a little bit of correction there. You can see it through Spoon. Just several little corrections there, keeping that thing pointed in the right direction. But for right now, Rasco can't really go for a move. He is gaining here. The back straight of 130R. Loverink running it as wide as he can. Actually, it's Rasco who's losing a little bit of time here. Bounding over the curbs. Look at how aggressive Loverink was there. Trying to extract every little bit of time and speed he can right now from the Porsche. But Hendrickson setting incredibly far there on the right. Surely there's not a dry line starting to form. It doesn't look like it, because there's no way drivers should be having to pull off to the side to cool the tires down. Of course, everybody on wets. Anybody who's on dries is definitely not really looking out the window too much. I don't know if we'll see dries, though. That's the big thing. If that were to happen, we would, of course, need to see weather change. But how soon does it happen for everybody? And does it stay that way? If it goes to sunnier conditions, or at the very least, less liquid focused, how quickly does the track dry? And when that happens, are you willing to go in? Are you willing to be the first one to get the slicks on? But we've gotten through the first 10 minutes. Clifford having fastest lap right now, 2:08.17. Loverink has just fallen way off of Hendrickson. 1.4 seconds. This is very new for him, because normally Loverink is the one that's leading the field away like that. And this has been a bit of his own medicine. Frizza still sitting close to Kaiser, and just ahead of them, MacGyver and Carpenter settling in for their spots. Now, if Frizza is able to gain anything here, he would have to pull alongside, well, I'd say right about now, but that hasn't happened. Last time out, though, was a lot closer. He's going to just lift very early. Oh, almost losing it there. Goes a little bit bouncy. He will just be forced to back off of the Lamborghini. That gives Andre Lloyd a chance to be a part of this. Yeah, Aston Martin driver within striking distance. But not really close enough to make a move stick if he tried it. So we have some pretty big gaps starting to form already from Hendrickson to Lovrink. And then from Portis down to Carpenter. And there's another bit of gap from Lloyd to Lemaire. Then Hernandez is kind of on his own. You've got the 35 and the 69 of Stapleton and Ciori who are kind of close together. The 404 of Eaton's by himself. Same with the 67 of Waters. And then Pocket, unfortunately, incredibly far behind. Has not had the race he's wanted. See how much these guys are committing. I think Lovrink is starting to lose time right now. He's got a 2:08.33, but does not have fastest lap because that belongs to Hendrickson, the first driver into the 2:07s. But we have more rain coming up very shortly, I think with probably at this point the next 5 minutes. Let's check back in with this. Oh, this is looking really good right now. MacGyver has not found himself in a winning position right now. Kaiser is incredibly close to him and already pulling away from Frizza. Even more now, Lloyd has not been able to close that gap up to the 74. Can't make a move at all. But MacGyver should be good here at the very least. Very fast section. Of course, Suzuka split into those two halves. One very technical, one that focuses on speed, and if you're in a Mustang, this is the spot you want to be in constantly. This is easy stuff for you. Pedal to the floor. Clifford still ahead of Rasco. Yep, we're seeing drivers off that line to cool the tires down a bit. So there is some tire temp issues coming into play here. That track is damp, not wet, but of course nothing that is going to really affect the overall performance of these wet weather tires. So this seems to be sort of a bit of a neutral moment in this race. We just lost one driver. I did not see who that was. But whoever it is, hopefully they come back soon. But yeah, we're at a very neutral part of this race. I think everybody's kind of realized that right now is not really the part of the event where you should be going for moves. Just gauge the opponent, figure out if and when and where you can make a move, and then just go off of that little bit of information. Kaiser and Frizza. So close, with Frizza giving a little bit of a love tap there to the Lamborghini in front. Thankfully, nothing really happened to Dylan. Kept the car where he needed to go, and Frizza once again falling off of this. Where is Lloyd? Right there. A gap that has been familiar for both of these guys. But MacGyver can be happy about that. Doesn't have to worry about Frizza for too long. MacGyver, though. What are these lap times looking like? MacGyver is slightly slower than Kaiser. That's surprising. So could be going for a move in a few laps time if everything goes the way of the 48. And then just ahead is Austin Carpenter. His lap times are slightly worse than MacGyver, but not to the same degree as MacGyver to Kaiser. And more off the line from there. You see Lemaire in the background, just outside the top 10. He is very much sitting in the wings right now. One driver who can't afford such a luxury is Lovrink, as Clifford has stuck so close to him and It has had a lap that is, the last few laps I believe are just a few tenths better, but hasn't been able to convert, and Rasco as well in the same sort of predicament. But if you're Hendrickson, you're very slowly building a gap, 2.5 seconds right now, and still with the fastest lap, 2:07.36. He is just walking away, not really running away, but he is definitely... Oh, hold on, the 57 of Lucas Lemaire has gone off. What in the world happened here? Oh, just a little bit on the curb there, some standing water, goes into the barrier, has to spin it back around. Oh my god, he almost picks up Hernandez and all of that. That was very, very lucky for Hernandez, rather, excuse me. That could have been very, very bad if it had gone the way it might have. That's actually a really good transition for Stapleton right now. Ciori. Only a couple of tenths separate these two. But everything for Stapleton to stay ahead right now as Ciori goes drifting over the curbs, and a little bit of green runoff. Not spinning around. But definitely losing time now. Check in with MacGyver and Kaiser. Carpenter is just gone. He wants absolutely nothing to do, but we have ticked under the 1 hour mark, folks. Hendrickson still leading this race ahead of Loverink and Clifford and Rasco. These three guys getting very friendly with each other right now as we head through the S's. That's Suzuka, and then Portis and Carpenter kind of on their own. We just saw the MacGyver Kaiser Frizza story. Lloyd doing his thing. Hernandez way off, just going through turn 1 now, and then we've got Lemaire, Stapleton, Ciori, Eaton, Waters, and Pocket. Those last two still a lap behind the leaders. But I wonder how much planning is going into the later stages of this race. Oh, Rasco. Rasco thought about it. Clifford knew he wasn't going to go for it. Rasco at least showing his teeth a little bit, saying, I have the pace. It's just a matter of when, not if. And Clifford probably just replying with if. Oh, and Loverink's a little bit offline now. This could be exactly what Clifford needs. He's got the slipstream. All the way on the left for both of these guys. Now to the right. Clifford just keeping it pinned in the middle. Doesn't want to give Rasco anything. Actually, we are going to be going side by side through 130R. Rasco got a huge run. I was wondering why Clifford wasn't going back on the racing line. That's because there was a whole Bentley in the way. But Rasco had a chance there. If he had made that stick around the outside, that would have been incredible. But not this lap, not in these conditions, not in these cars. That is a bold strategy. Let's check back in. Oh, this gaggle of cars is getting very, very interesting. MacGyver, Kaiser, Frizza, and Lloyd. All of these guys sticking together, keeping every single bit of tire temp they can as they pull off to the right. So difficult to overtake here. It's been done before, but that is one of those things you have to be absolutely certain of. Frizza, oh, he is really getting impatient, almost getting into that rear quarter panel of Kaiser. See the Lambo sliding a little bit. Just falling right off again, and Lloyd, same thing. These guys are starting to sort of probe for more information. And look at the gap. Just look at the track map there. You've got the entire front half of the field in one part. And the rest of them very much spaced out. We have yet to see a pit stop here. And we are just about to hit 20 minutes into this race. MacGyver still sitting in 7th. And Kaiser Frizzle Lloyd, you're top, or in the top 10 rather. And then all the way down to Hernandez in 8th, 16 seconds. So these guys are in a world of their own right now. And I'm sure the last thing they would want is a few other drivers joining the fray. Frizza is, for the last, I can't even think of how many laps, has been right in the gearbox of MacGyver just before 130R, and then having to back out and doing it all again over the course of the next lap. And those gaps will form up, and then they'll pull back into each other, and then we'll just see the same thing happen again and again. Loverink, though, despite those slower laps, has rediscovered his rhythm. Now has built about a second. Uh-oh, we have got the, who was that? That was Eaton and Lemaire. Trying to figure out what happened here. So into, oh, just gets a love tap there from Stapleton. It's not one, but 2 Porsches go through. That was Ciari. And then Eaton. Lemaire got off the line. That's because he was going into the pit lane. We'll see. All right, just going to be getting to the pit box now. I don't know if this is going to be for damage or tires. Maybe fuel. I would assume bodywork and some fuel, because right now, if you look at the forecast there in the upper right, we are going to be seeing even more rain in 30 minutes. That is exactly what you want. And we do see, what is that? The 69 of Ciari off the road. Coming through the S's. What happened here? Gets on the curb. Oh, just loses it a little bit. Little tap on the fence there. Based on the trajectory, I genuinely thought he was going to be hitting the, or he was going to just go wide onto the grass. And he's off again at Degna 2. Phoenix really struggling right now. Not rising as well as you think his name would convince. But, oh, that was a great slide there from Clifford. Look at Henderson. He is just by himself right now. He's got nothing to worry about. He's actually just past Lemaire, who is still in the pit lane. I think Lemaire, yeah, just starting to move now. So that should be maybe fuel, maybe some body work there for the pit crew. We're seeing very methodical racing here. Nobody's really going for moves right now. Any attempts we've seen have just gone, thankfully not up in smoke, but have just gone away, have just melted off. Frizza and MacGyver being that. I'm sure at this point MacGyver is probably settling a little bit down, knowing that there isn't much of a attempt at a move. Carpenter and Portis right now 6th and 5th respectfully. These guys have been decently close to each other. Their lap times have been very similar. Very high 209s. It's gone back and forth. But at the very least, Carpenter is within range to maybe just plant himself in Portis's view. But yeah, these guys are very much at an impasse. Nobody's gaining. Whoa, MacGyver's gone around there in the background. Was that a touch from Frizza? It might have been, because Frizza backed out. Or sorry, not MacGyver, Kaiser. Frizza is just getting right behind Kaiser at the worst possible times. Lloyd gaining as well, but the problem is he is just nowhere close to to make a move stick, and you wonder if he gets around, is he going to be able to actually keep it? I'm not certain about that. MacGyver and Kaiser, though, still doing their own thing. Speaking of his own thing, it is Hendrickson still there, and Loverig's actually pulling out a really good gap right now. Almost 2 seconds to Clifford compared to the 5.3 he's got to the man ahead, but you think just a handful of laps ago, Lovering was looking over his shoulder, and Clifford was very much eyeing up P2, but Lovering head down and just banging out these laps, has built a gap right now that he can 100% use. Gain a little bit of, I'll say, leniency in the mistakes department, but of course that can very quickly dry up. We are again seeing the likes of MacGyver and Kaiser sticking very closely to each other. Very different lines though for both of them. Kaiser's only a couple of tenths behind. Double that, give it to Frizza. Keep that relatively the same, and you've got from Frizza to Lloyd, Diagonal 1 and 2 for everybody's done incredibly well. MacGyver is very much utilizing every little bit of the surface he can. Because he knows Kaiser maybe has some pace here. And look at that. Oh, Lloyd very, very deep there on the brakes. Kaiser thought about it. Tried to go for that move, or not go for the move, but just try to stick with MacGyver on exit. It didn't work out at all. And now onto that long back straight. That MacGyver, just every time he gets to it, you know, it's a little bit of a dopamine hit. Because he knows that he is going to be safe for more of this race. Because Kaiser just cannot catch up. Frizza, though, falling off very quickly. And Lloyd as well. So, the only pit stop we have seen so far has come from Lucas Lemaire. Whether that be just for damages or for fuel or maybe a little bit of both. Kaiser, very close there. But the top end just non-existent. MacGyver just pulls away immediately. But it seems like into the braking zone for turn 1 and 2 is when the 48 catches up. Oh, is that Hendrickson? Did Hendrickson just spin? What happened to him? Hendrickson has gone from leading this race to getting on the grass a little bit. Huge hit on the wall there. Spins right around. You can see that window's cracked. He has sustained major damage there on his Lamborghini. Where has he gone? He's gone to 4th position. And you can hear just how slow that car is. There is nothing that he can do right now. He is at the mercy of the entire field, and what was looking like a surefire win has just been washed away in just a couple of corners, as everybody's going to get past. How slowly is he moving? He is in 4th gear. Barely. So he's got a ton of damage, the front and the left side. All of that caught up. Oh, and here we go. Kaiser has gotten a move on the inside of MacGyver, but can this stick? Well, right on board with Frizza right now, who's going to stay in the slipstream of the Lamborghini, but look at MacGyver just pulling away. No slipstream, no assistance, no nothing. Just the power of the Mustang to get him out of trouble. Does Kaiser look to the inside for a move? Tries to fake it off. That absolutely throws a wrench in MacGyver's plans as he goes into the grass. Maybe Hendrickson giving him a little bit of trouble. So Hendrickson goes into the pit lane. It is now on, not this man. But the man right behind the Aston Martin here, MacGyver fighting back immediately as Lloyd takes a little bit of a trip onto the gravel, gets back onto the circuit though, and now Frizza and Kaiser are at the front of this pack. MacGyver has been demoted. Is this what Frizza needs to get around the 48? But here's the thing. He knows that quite possibly MacGyver gets back in on this, and now we see side by side for these two, the two Italian manufacturers, gonna do battle before Degna. One, there's a touch there from the Mustang of MacGyver. That just gave Kaiser a little bit of a boost, actually, so that actually did not even hurt him that much. And we see the 404 of Eaton and the 35 going off, the 35 of Stapleton through the S's. The 67 of Scott Waters has slowed to a crawl and has gotten back going, so we're starting to see some weird issues starting to come up for these drivers. But MacGyver, I want to see how much he actually gains here. And he will have the slipstream as well, so he is absolutely just gunning for this. He could be getting around Kaiser soon. It may be this lap, it may be the next lap. And as he slides through 130R. Gets it slowed down just enough for those tires to grab the surface, get the grip there, and keep him from spinning. Drivers may be a little too complacent right now in this race, and again we see Scott Waters spinning or coming to a stop. This is through the through the S's. Does he run it wide? Ooh, little touch. We've seen a few drivers at this same point going off and just losing grip, so I am very curious as to what's happening there. Frizza has gotten around Kaiser. So is this the time for Frizza to start building that gap while MacGyver catches up? If MacGyver can catch up, that is. Because MacGyver still has to worry about Andre Lloyd behind him. He knows that he just cannot rest. And one driver I'm curious about, has Hendrickson gotten back out? No, we've lost Hendrickson. Hendrickson has retired from the race. The damage far too much to overcome because he went right to the bottom of the field. So we have lost 2 drivers this evening. It looks like Andrew Wilson disconnected from the race, and based on what he said in the Discord, that was an internet issue. That was not his own doing. Oh, and Lloyd's gone around MacGyver, so it looks like MacGyver, I think, just got a little bit too delayed there on his braking, and continuing to have problems here. But can he gain the position back? And if he does, is it going to be before or after the corner? I'm not certain, but right now it looks like Lloyd's in a little bit of a safe spot, and we will continue to see more rain as this race carries on. We have one driver off there. I believe that is Lucas Lemaire. No, that is not Lucas Lemaire. That was Scott Waters getting out of the way. I was going to say, when did he go off there? So we've had a complete position shift from these 4 drivers. Everybody has taken up a new spot. It's Frizza, Kaiser, Lloyd, and MacGyver. All in the top 10, though. In 10th position is Jaden Hernandez, who is just coming out of the final corner now. You can see just how lonely it is for him. Eaton is almost 19 seconds behind him. So those guys are really just doing a lot of practice laps. But this is where the battle is. Lovrink has retaken the lead of this race. Clifford and Rasco. Portis is way off. Same with Carpenter. And then, of course, you get to the Frieza, the 6, 7, 8, and 9th place pack. But we're starting to see Kaiser getting a little bit of extra pace. Last lap has gone the way of the 48 by a couple of tenths. And then compared to Lloyd and MacGyver, I think MacGyver is starting to struggle a little bit. I don't know if there's some aerodynamic issues at play because the car's in front. Maybe the track is a little too wet for the Mustang to handle. All this rain has just absolutely made things a bit trickier for these Pirelli wets. But everybody, for the most part, has stayed on the track. So Frieza really enjoying all the clean air in front of him. MacGyver is really falling off here. He is struggling. I don't know if there's something psychological going on or what the case may be, but if there is any time to just get your head down and just start churning out these laps, it would be now. Because you still have 40 minutes to go here, and then you're going to do 90 minutes next week. Or is it the week after? I forget when our break is. I think it's after Silverstone. But either way, 90 minutes after a 75-minute, and then we sort of reset everything in terms of race distance. So we'll have the those back-to-back 30s, then a 60, then a 75, and then a 90, and then that'll close us out for the season. But plenty of action still to come here at Suzuka. We do see Waters in the pit lane. I think that might be for the damage he sustained earlier. Maybe topping up on fuel. Maybe electing to throw some tires on. I don't know if that would really be the most optimal strategy. But try as he might, he will at least see the checkered flag. At least that's what he would probably like to do. But Frieza is slowly, very, very, very slowly losing some time over to Kaiser, who is right under him. Kaiser is pushing for this overtake, so is Lloyd. And MacGyver's just left behind, not even being a factor in this battle right now. So right on board, Lloyd later on the brakes. That's going to send him right out wide. Not the proper line. MacGyver will not get closer because of this. In the slipstream, we see the 69 of Siori off, probably getting a little bit too much on the grass there and spinning around. But thankfully, he's kind of just on his own right now. The 713 of Pocket is still a good ways back, so that's not really even a threat for him. But Lloyd's starting to become a threat here for Kaiser. He is so close to these guys. Some of the closest he's been all day. MacGyver really just not in the best spot. Went from a 2:11 last lap to a 2:12. If that doesn't tell you that maybe there's something going on in the mental game, as we do see Frieza getting a little bit slippery. But yeah, these guys are very patiently awaiting what the next possible step is going to be. No telling where this goes or how it goes. But one thing is for certain. It is not going to be a cut and dry sort of race for any of these guys. I don't know which way it can go. I don't know who's going to come out on top and who is unfortunately going to have to settle for second best. We see the 404 of Ian. Whoa! Big hit there on Anique Stapleton. Pulling up. So let's see. We'll check in with Ian, see what happened here. He just gets a little bit wide. And then Stapleton, I don't know if there was nowhere for the 35 to go. Oh my god, that's right on the line. I mean, shoutouts to Eaton for, at the very least, holding his brakes and not moving and being predictable. Stapleton's come to a stop, teleporting back to the pits. There is way too much damage to keep going. The entire right side of Eaton's car is destroyed. He may be... Oh, Ciari. So both of these Porsches getting a lot of punishment dished out. And Suzuka is really starting to wear on everybody here. Silly mistakes coming out. And there's still plenty of more time to be had next week. Or, yeah, next week with Silverstone. So it will be very interesting to see who comes out on top, and we have lost Stapleton as well. We'll not be seeing the checkered flag. We'll see how that impacts the amateur class championship. Of course, Hendrickson as well was third going into this race, so I'm not certain where he's going to end up in all of this, how far down he's going to fall. I think pretty much everybody that's still here from 3rd to 6th will benefit. I don't know if they'll all overtake him, or maybe half of them will, but at the very least we'll be seeing maybe a little bit of a change as Lloyd goes very wide there. The gravel surprisingly doesn't lose himself. And now we're starting to see Frizza build a little gap right now. 3/4 of a second. There's Lemaire. Going to be getting blue flagged here soon enough. Check in with Love Rank. Whoa, Pocket. Pocket has a lot of front end damage there. So he'll go off just to let these guys through. Parks it up. Lets Rask go through and should get going again. Yes, he will. That must have just happened. He comes into the pits. I wonder what the steering looks like. Oh, Rasko's coming as well. Interesting. So this might be, depending on tire wear, we could be seeing a change to that. It could be fuel. But for the most part, the drivers who have had to go in, it's more against their will. And Scott Waters again. So many troubles right now for the 67. The same spot and the same bit of outcome for him. And somehow, some way, Lloyd has gotten ahead of not just Kaiser, but also Frizza. And MacGyver's come in. There is a lot happening right now as Lloyd goes wide through one. That invites Frizza back up into a very worthy spot, but we're going to be seeing some side-by-side, and as I say that, Frizza goes off wide one way, Lloyd goes wide the other way, Lloyd comes back on, almost taking out Frizza. Kaiser dips right on through, Houdini's his way into the position, and Frizza still sliding, trying to keep his car under control. Kaiser can sense some weakness here, tighter, cleaner lines here for the 48, and gets the power down. Does he get the move done? That's going to be the question through Degna 1. Yes, he has. And Lloyd, from getting ahead of both of these guys to being right back behind them just like that, it was a short-lived bit of sunshine here in this monsoon. He's got everything to play for. Frizza. I thought he might have had a run there. He may have a run here, however, as we go down a little bit and right back up into Spoon. Lloyd falling right back off the pace here. Frizza and Kaiser, very similar lines there, trying to meet that later apex. Straighter exit if they can. Power down onto the back straight. Slight slipstream being given over to the 74. Don't think he'll have a chance for it. Clifford and Lovering still running within a second of each other. And then Portis and Carpenter have about 2 seconds between them or so. But we are seeing very interesting developments here in this race, and as that weather forecast continues to show more rain, plenty of rain, too much rain for pretty much everybody to deal with. But out of the original 18, 15 still stand here. For some, the rain jackets and umbrellas are looking fine. For others, there are definitely holes that they are struggling to patch up right now. And if you're these guys, you're kind of swapping between working rain gear and rain gear that leaves a lot to be desired. Some drivers are just sort of having their lazy, rainy Sundays. We have seen a couple of pit stops, mostly for damage, though. Some drivers coming in, Rasco being one such. I don't know what that was for, but has come into the pit lane, so he's down in 9th right now. Maybe hoping the drivers ahead go in, but it shouldn't be too difficult to have this entire race done without having to pit in the slightest, as these three have shown lap after lap. MacGyver was another such driver who came in. He is down in 10th position, so he's dropped back a little bit, and he's a long way off of the trio we've been keeping an eye on. Let's check back in. The gap 7/10 from Lovering to Clifford. What's it looking like now? Is 6/10. So the 999 might be on for a top finish. It was maybe half a tenth. And there's still 30 minutes to go here. You wonder how much benefit an extra 15 minutes will give to the drivers, honestly. If you think about it, it could be plenty of extra time for a move. It could be plenty of extra time to maybe hold somebody off. Dylan Kaiser, Chris Frizza starting to build a little bit of a gap to Andre Lloyd, almost a second there between all of these guys. But Lloyd really coming up with the short end of the stick. There's Lemaire in front of them, so despite Lemaire, oh, we've got the 888 of Hernandez around. Did he get involved with Pocket? What happened here? That's Rasco. So he makes a touch onto Rasco. I think he wanted to go for a move that just was not going to happen. Thankfully, he stops and lets Rasco back through. So he did have the pace there, but realized that he would definitely get a harsher penalty if he had driven away. We may see some drivers moved around post-race. But for right now, things are definitely getting very interesting. Lovering has opened the gap back up almost a full second now, so Clifford definitely struggling in Sector 1 at the very least. Maybe slightly worse in 2. We'll see what it looks like, though, for 3. They are going to be crossing the start-finish line, but that gap is looking pretty big right now. From these two crossing the line, it's over a second. Lovering's gotten 2/10, so he might be getting a little speedy. And Frizza's starting to pull away from Kaiser. Lloyd as well is stuck in limbo, as he neither gains nor loses. I think Frizza is probably the only winner here out of all of these guys. So let's see, 1.1. I want to see what this gap looks like when we get to Sector 2, because I'm curious as to how much Clifford is actually gaining in all of this and how much he's losing. So they're going to be coming up to that sector timing line right about now. So Clifford gets 3/10. So yeah, sector. Oh my God, big drift there for the Lamborghini. Sector 1 is definitely where Clifford is strongest. Loverank, maybe gonna gain more into 2, or rather through 2. We'll see how that goes. That timing line for Sector 2 is right in the middle of the background. So we will not know for a little bit. But 0.8 is your gap. We'll check back in. Frieza and Kaiser. I think they're slowly starting to pull up to Lemaire. Yeah, a couple of seconds is the gap for all of these guys. Or rather, all of these guys up to Lemaire. Alright, so let's see. Loverank. Cross the line. That gap's gone. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely Loverank is gaining in Sector 3. And then keeping it pretty stable through 1, but losing out by the time they get to 2. So, yeah, Clifford's gaining as much as he's losing, but that does not help him overall. We still got 25 minutes to go here. That's Suzuka. And that gap, 1.1 again. Big stalemates. Now, Lemaire should be getting a call soon. That he is going to be getting out of the way. He's got about a 2-second gap right now. So the car's behind. But with the lap times that are being run by Frieza, Kaiser, and Lloyd, it may be a couple of laps before we start seeing the blue flag come out, or at the very least a lap and a half. Getting off the line. The 57 of Lemaire has a long way to Eaton, who is here, who will be forced to let the leaders through. So you can see just how big these gaps are. Even with drivers who are, you could say, racing for position on the timing sheets, they are still a long ways away from each other. Now, with Frieza getting closer and closer to Lemaire, if he gets too close at the worst time, Kaiser may find an opening. Otherwise, he will be safe. But Lemaire knows what flag is coming up. And you can see just how close they are now. Degna 1 and then 2. As the Ferrari of Frieza slides out. And that actually is pretty good timing, because that does let 5th and 6th place through with no issues. Lloyd might not be singing the same sort of tune, but oh, I thought Lemaire was getting offline just a little bit. He's not. He's still sticking in front of Lloyd, teleporting a little bit. Why not? But yeah, there you go. He's allowed Lloyd to get through. So Lloyd has done what he needs to do. Look at this. Just look at the gap right now from 2nd place, Clifford, who's just going through 1 now, to 3rd place, Portis. That is 25 seconds, it looks like, for these guys. That is ridiculous, if that is actually to be believed. And they have gotten around Ciari. Yeah, 25.5 seconds for the top 2. They've got some drivers, I mean, 5th place is still a lap behind. And then 12th is 2, and then you've got Ciari 3 laps down, and these guys are just going to be going on to the lead lap. Same with Lloyd. And then Rasco way off in the distance, so that pit stop might not have been the strategy for him. Especially after the bit of touch that happened. We've got the 937 of Lloyd. What has happened to the Aston Martin? Going through turn 1. Gets a little bit wide, spins it. Keeps those brakes clamped. I don't think he loses a position off of this. Nope, just loses time to those ahead. Depending on what part of the MFD that Rasko had pulled up, that delta may have gone down rather quickly. But Andre Lloyd is just gone. He's nowhere close to anybody now. So that leaves Frieza all by himself. He knows that the threat of overtake for Kaiser has gone. And in some ways that's good if you're Kaiser, bad if you're Frieza, because now you know the guy behind you only has to worry about what's in front of him. Even when pulling away a little bit, doesn't matter. What a sight this is. This is Ian and Sior Siari. Sior Siari is behind. Hopefully, yeah, it doesn't get involved with Ian. That would be rather embarrassing. But we move our gaze back to the fight for P5. It's Kaiser. Later on the break, slight tap, might get a straighter run. It's looking pretty solid for both of these guys. Gotta be careful with throttle input, though. Especially with just how much rain has fallen here. And ahead there is Scott Waters. Waters down in 14th position right now, a couple laps off the lead. He's had a very quiet race. But he'll have to get out of the way soon enough as he gets loose there. Kaiser about halfway alongside through 1 and 2. Stepping back, though, to give Frieza that position. Knows that he is not in any sort of stance to attack. Now, how quickly do these guys get to Waters? And where do they get to Waters? Two big questions I have to ask for this race, as we are just under 20 minutes to go here at Suzuka. Lovering and Clifford, that gap still saying around the same spot, anywhere from 0.8 to 1.1 seconds. As the two drivers of Waters and Kaiser getting a little sideways. The 888 of Hernandez has gone around. There's some big damage, I think. I didn't quite see. He's on the inside. Oh, right into the wall. Yep, that'll do it. So just a little bit too much power, a little too soon. It looks like Craig Pockett's car isn't actually as damaged as I would have thought, but Hernandez, if he was looking to get Rasko, that is not going to happen. MacGyver, though, has gotten around, so he's in 9th position. MacGyver, what a race he had towards the beginning, was in talks with Kaiser and Frieza and Lloyd for a position. Just a couple mistakes sent him way back down, so he has completely fallen off in his own little world now. Can he stay ahead of Hernandez? In the battle of Mustang supremacy, I believe that it's a back and forth. I'd have to double check the results, but both of these guys have been sort of trading who's the better of the two. But we still watch Frieza and Kaiser, so the gap for these guys is a few tenths of a second. It's anywhere from about 3/4 down to about 2/10 or so. But really no move. When things happen for Kaiser, when he does get within that 0.2, it is at moments like this where you really can't be going for an overtake, because it is not going to be easy. It's not going to be clean. That's the hardest part. It's difficult enough going through the S's in dry conditions, door to door with somebody, but you throw in some rain and, well, even if you're faster, it's not really going to be the most sound decision to try and go for a move, simply because the grip isn't there and a lot less predictability for the cars to work with. And all it takes is one slightly wide line and you're off. We've seen it before, not just here at Suzuka, but we've seen it at other races where the rain has fallen. Not just that, but even braking zones are pushed a little bit back, or a little bit closer rather, where you need to brake earlier, and sometimes that does cause problems. We have seen accidents happen. One driver hits the brakes and the car just gets a little bit sideways. Maybe it's an awkward line, or speed being a little too high, or something to that effect, and you spin around. And we have seen both cars get involved. We've seen just the spinning car having to deal with that. But yeah, for Kaiser, this must be agony right now. You're close enough to kind of make a move, but you're never really in a position to do that. And if you're Lemaire, you at the very least get to sort of copy the lines a bit, so there's some benefits there. Loverick and Clifford, kind of the same. Kind of the same. The gap is larger, just over a second, and usually towards the upper tenths under. But Kaiser's gotten a great run here. Does he have a shot? We're side by side, though, as we head over the timing line. Frizza still barely holding on to that. Now Kaiser's in the lead of this battle going into turn one. Frizza having to get on the brakes early, does not have the best line. Kaiser into the top 5. Frizza back down to 6th. And with 15 minutes and some change to go, do we see this position held by Kaiser, or does Frizza get him back? That move was a long time coming. The last lap, though, for Frizza was quite a bit slower, so that is probably what gave Kaiser all the invitation he needed to get through and get this position done. And look at that, he's already pulled quite a gap. It'll be interesting to see how much that grows, if it grows even. Especially when you look at the front two here, with Loverick actually finally getting a couple of tenths out of this. Was sitting at 1.1 for a while, going down to 0.8, but now he's at 1.3. Crossing it. Let's see if he's gained a couple of extra tenths. He hasn't. He's lost a few thousandths, though. That's not really going to do really anything for him. And Kaiser, if broadcast controller is to be believed, this is over a second between himself and Frizza. So we'll see what we're working with here. It does say, what is it going to be? 1.6. So Kaiser, this move was probably going to happen, but it just needed a little bit of luck for it to actually stick. And now with Frizza well and truly in his rearview mirror, Kaiser can just focus on the open road ahead of him. You can see the 883 of Carpenter just getting through those first couple of corners. So that is a massive gap, 16, almost 17 seconds right now. And Carpenter's only 3.5 off of Portis. So could maybe go for something. And then up front, still Loverink and Clifford. That gap's under a second now, but only just. We'll see how much Loverink gains before we go into 3. Oh, Loverink, that was scary. A little bit of a twitch there. That could have ended catastrophically. Clifford will gain a little bit. I'm not certain how much. It could be maybe a tenth or 2. 2 tenths, so he's up just under 0.8. Yeah, Frizza's really struggling with Kaiser now. That gap 1.6. Broadcast controller says 2. We'll see what it is. And also what it is for these guys. Lovering probably not going to let the little wiggle there keep him from doing what he needs to do. 0.5 now. Clifford may have a small slipstream, but really, it's not going to do anything for him at all. But you see how close he is. Maybe there's a possibility, maybe there's not. not 100% on this. But these guys may be going right to the flag. As Lovering continues to struggle a bit. Clifford sensing some weakness. This could be his chance to take the lead. But then he's got to hold it. Lovering sliding. Surely not panicking. That would not do him any favors right now. Clifford in hot pursuit. Just cannot find any way around right now. I thought Hernandez was actually catching up. Or sorry, yeah, Hernandez was catching up to McIver. It was tricked. But we can return back to the front too. Yeah, Loverink is starting to rebuild again. He may make a mistake, but you really got to try to get under his skin. It's not easy in the slightest. He has shown multiple seasons in a row that he is a force to be reckoned with. He is not someone you should take lightly. We have seen him absolutely run away with races in the past. This season and last season have not been as powerful, but they have still been impactful. But you gotta go back a little bit. I mean, there were races where he was... if you were to maybe say, from the 477 of MacGyver down to the 888 of Hernandez, the gap they have would be roughly 15 seconds? Yeah, that'd be roughly what Loverink would do in a regular race day, if not more. But we're starting to see this Constantina that we saw already. Lovering misses his breaking point a little bit. Now it's the inside line. Clifford, is this the opportunity to overtake and get the job done? Get the lead of the race. He's about a half a car ahead, but he does have the outside line. Lovering with the inside line, and now the Lamborghini's going to get around it, but he's going to go around 90 degrees. And Skylar Lovering barely holding on to position number 1. As it was the 999 of Clifford. Gave it everything he had, asked a little bit too much for the Lamborghini. And that might be the candle being snuffed out. That might have been the last light for Clifford. He was right there for so long. And it all gets away from him. It was a hell of a battle, though. Lovering really got lucky there. That might be it. That might be the race for those guys. Kaiser has gotten 1.6 over Frizza right now. So the gap kind of hitting a plateau here. Is Kaiser was gaining maybe a couple of tenths a lap, but that's gone far less on return. And then everybody else is really just on their own. We have only seen a handful of pit stops. Out of the 18 that participated tonight, we've lost 3. One to a disconnect. That was Andrew Wilson very early on. We lost Hendrickson as well, unfortunately. I'm forgetting the other one, but those last 2 out for damage. It was Stapleton. Stapleton was the other driver who we lost, and yeah, those Stapleton and Hendrickson both for damage. Wilson just his internet deciding that working was not on the agenda. But everybody else has kept going. Out of the pit stops for damage that have stayed out there, or actually rather not that, Rasco went in. Not certain for what. It may have been for fuel, maybe some slight damage repair if that's what happened, but that was after his pit stop, so not 100% what that was all about. And I think Hernandez was another such driver who went into the pit box after he had a bit of an off and a little kiss with the barrier. This race settling down a lot here. 90-minute races, these longer form races always tend to... Either it's a battle for a while and then drivers settle down and do it at the end, or everyone's kind of just fighting with each other throughout, or you get the possibility where you get these huge gaps forming. This is really where you can see how good some of these drivers are and how likely they can just pull away from everybody else. Hold on a second. Are we seeing Portis and Carpenter possibly gonna battle it out for P3, the last spot on the podium? We might. Last week, you guys saw it in the recap, they came together, spun around, but hopefully we can avoid that this week. Pocket has a drive-through for track limits. Pocket right now is somewhere on circuit, just going through 130R. So he has 3 laps to serve that drive-through. He may come in now, but of course he has a little bit of options to choose from. Although I would not be surprised now he's coming in now. It just came up, so he should be appearing as in the pits here very shortly. That'll serve his drive-through, and just based on the gaps, the 60 car of Ciori will get, should be, or no, sorry, that's the 69 rather. That is, yeah, I can read. Ciori will get ahead, but he will not be ahead. And then Scott Waters in the 67. I don't even know where Waters is. I think he is going through the, that's Eaton and Lemaire. Ooh, hold on. Oh, Lemaire. Or Eaton, rather. Almost losing it. So these two guys could be racing for position. What have the lap times have been? Eaton's had very appalling lap times. 3 seconds compared to Lemaire. Although that was probably due to blue flag, so I may be talking nothing here. But let's check back in with your 3rd and 4th place, Portis and Carpenter. We have a yellow flag. The 67 of Waters is off at Spoon. And it looks to be entirely self-inflicted as the 477 of MacGyver gets through. But Carpenter can sense an opportunity. His laps have been a lot quicker than Portis, and with Pocket ahead, getting blue flagged. Who gets held up here? We can ask that, and hopefully the answer is neither. Carpenter stepping offline, maybe trying to get a little bit of cooling in the tires, as he is starting to fall off a little bit from Portis. But 2 more laps to go. So when Loverank gets around the next time, it will be the final lap. You see, where is it? Clifford just now coming through that final chicane. What an absolutely heartbreaking way for that battle to end there. Not what he would have wanted, but at the very least, he can rest assured knowing that Portis is quite a long ways back, so while he may have lost time, he did not lose a place. Although Carpenter is going to be itching for this. He wants this position. He knows it's there. But he really has to get a move on. He is burning daylight. We may start seeing some desperate moves for the 883 Aston Martin. But if that happens, he really needs to make sure this gap is under half a second, maybe even 3/4. Where is it over the line? It's half a second. Maybe it's there. Maybe the shot's there, depending on how it works out. We have Scott Waters having some more issues trying to keep the car on the road. This race has been rather painful for him. I want to forget this one and get ready for Silverstone. Yeah, like I said, that's going to be 90 minutes. We're going to be on it for a while, and I don't remember 100% if it's no stop. I do want to see if we've updated. We have. What is the race looking like? No mandatory stops again. So 90 minutes, and it's up to the drivers to figure it out. Portis and Carpenter still for position number 3. And when they get around next time, it will be the final lap, the last chance for Carpenter to make an overtake work, if he even can. He is experimenting with his lines right now. And yet he continuously comes up empty-handed. Portis is loving this, though. He's starting to actually pull away a little bit. Through the final corner goes Lovrink. Ladies and gentlemen, the last lap here at Suzuka is going to start in just a couple of seconds. Lovrink, 2 minutes and 13, maybe 14 seconds from victory. He's just got to make it all the way around with 0 mistakes, and if he makes a mistake, it better be minimal, because Clifford, 7 seconds behind, could very much overtake if that Porsche spins. If you're Portis and Clifford or Carpenter, you already know what is ahead of you. For Portis, it's an open track. For Carpenter, it is a black and red Honda that at the moment, according to the timing, is almost 3/4 of a second ahead. Now it is half a second. Carpenter, is he going to get desperate? And if that's the case, how desperate is he going to get? How badly is he going to want this position? He is just going to throw everything he's got in this final lap. You can see just how much he's pulled up here through the S's. Is there maybe a bit of an extra performance? Leaning more towards Carpenter. He's trying to stay alongside, but he's really compromising his exit right now. Portis knows this and is almost intentionally driving Carpenter out wide. The 404 of Eaton's gone around. It looks like he was getting out of the way of Lloyd. Hopefully it wasn't tapped around, wasn't given any assistance. Carpenter almost losing it there. He is getting... Oh, he knows. He is trying everything. He's going unorthodox. He's doing whatever he thinks might help him out at this stage, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. Folks, for the last time, Lovrink has gone through the chicane, and he is going to power it down through the final corner. Skylar Lovrink will see the checkered flag first. Another win for the defending champion here at Suzuka. He had some nervous moments as Hendrickson overtook him and then crashed out of this race. Clifford had a shot at victory, but got away of his own doing. And we have to wait for 3rd and 4th. Carpenter is so close. Will he go for a move into 130R? No, he won't. He may look for something, though, into this chicane. Does it happen? No, his break point is similar. Portis, has he gotten the exit he needs? He might have. Carpenter, he's so close. He can smell the fumes coming off the back of the Honda, but it's just going to be a little bit too late. Flashes the headlights to say congratulations, and Portis will make it onto the podium. A 10.5 between them. Carpenter is 4th, Kaiser is 5th, and if you're Brian Rasco, you have just gotten yourself a drive-through penalty for track limits. How much time is that going to add on? It's probably going to be 30 seconds. That it is, so Frizza will move up a spot. Frizza will go into 6th. Will Lloyd move up as well? Yes, he will. It's actually just going to be 2 spots lost for Rasco, so he'll go down to 8th. MacGyver will be 9th. Hernandez is 10th, 11th for Lemaire. Eaton will cross the line. There he is in the background. He'll be 12th, and it'll be Pocket, Waters, and Ciari. And we just wait on the 477 of MacGyver. Let's go on board one last time with the Mustang. But MacGyver into the top 10. He's going to be very happy about that. But he is coming up to the start-finish line for the last time, and 90 minutes here at Suzuka have concluded. Lovrink has done it the best out of anybody. And we'll take a look at the preliminary results of this race. Lovrink, Clifford, Portis, Carpenter, Kaisa, Frizza, Lloyd, Rasco down to 8th with those 30 seconds. MacGyver and Hernandez, that's your top 10. We lost Stapleton, Hendrickson, and Wilson, those first 2 to damage. The third one because the internet didn't want to work. In the Pro-Ams, though, Kaiser, Lloyd, MacGyver, Hernandez, Lemaire, Pocket, and Ciari. And then for the amateurs, Eaton, Waters, and Stapleton. It's going to be interesting to see, based on their overall finishing positions, how that actually affects this class's championship. But I will try to get that graphic I have in mind done for next week. And if I do, great. If I don't, well, maybe the week after. But before we get out of here, Simrigs, one final shout out to these guys. Thank you so much for sponsoring another season of Sprint. We really enjoyed having you guys on. One of Australia's finest in terms of sim racing equipment. Australia, New Zealand, you guys are all set. Everybody else, send them an email. Figure something out. They would be more than happy to take some of your hard-earned dollar bucks in exchange for some new sim racing equipment. And if you're supporting us on Patreon, 5% off your purchases. So take advantage of that little bit of couponing. But thank you to Simrigs for another season of sponsorship. Folks, we are off until next week because we are going to be going to Silverstone. 90 minutes, no mandatory pit stops, and as far as I'm concerned, the weather should be pretty darn dry based on what the calendar says. But that'll be the last race before a break until September 5th when we have our next, or the latter half of the season at Paul Ricard, and that'll take us all the way through September and just in time for October. But folks, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. We are back again next week. Silverstone, we'll see who's got it in them to survive 90 minutes. But other than that, as always, stay safe, stay beautiful. We'll see you next time.